Welcome everybody, and I'm glad that Keith squeezed me in for a little TEN talk. I first start a little bit introducing myself because doing this TEN talk was also from the community asked me to join and make some efforts to the community. So I'm actually I'm more a generalist than a Wi-Fi specialist, although I'm becoming more and more Wi-Fi specialist. So I tend to, if I look at the very old days, I try to make two computers talk to each other. And from there on, with modems, from there on building a network, and from there on, I luckily, living in the Netherlands, it was Lucent Technologies, nearby Utrecht, that they started with data over the air. And everybody said, that will never happen. Look where we are now. So, for a little nostalgia, I know it's vendor neutral, but I thought Lucent Technologies and Wi-Fi, so I brought the old Wi-Fi with me. So, if anybody wants to have a look, this is actually one of my first Wi-Fi things. So it's typically one from the old days, a PC card that you for PCMCIA that you put in your laptop with an external antenna module that you could stick on the back of your laptop, and if you want to rip it off, half your display is defect. And if that didn't work, you had something like an extender that you put near your laptop. I don't know if you all remember that. But that's the old days. So, and I read the book. It was July 97. So it's almost 20 years ago that I'm kind of playing with Wi-Fi. Never worked for a Wi-Fi vendor, but always for a data networking company doing Wi-Fi on the side. So, doing that, now working 4.5 years for Extreme Networks, was diode switching and doing Wi-Fi more and more. If you read all the news and the advertisements, you see it. 3 years ago, I think I started here in Maastricht for this conference, and we had a big discussion at the bar about certifications, and, well, was it a discussion? It was like, where does it go and how should we do it? And I took that very seriously, so I went to Peter Mackenzie and did my CWNA training, certified. At the moment I'm a security professional, and yeah, I don't know where to stop, so let's continue with that. CWNE, probably.
No, you never stop.
You never stop, yeah. See where it started and we still go on. So, in being in the business, you see an immense gain of data, data explosion, I would say. And things like 3D printing, things like Internet of Things. I think we all heard about it, and they tend to say it's like 1.7 billion of data will be generated by 2020 or so. So that's more data than is ever produced in the last 20 years, or in human race even. So, but it's very important to analyze the data and to know what we're talking about. That's why we talk so much about the analyzing tools and everything around it. So we need insights and not opinions. And we really want to know what's going on in the network. This is we very much, if I talk to customers, I always tend to talk about the user experience. If you go to school, how does the student use the network, and not how we as installers try to make the network work. At the moment, I'm busy at a school in the Netherlands, like a college. That's like ages 12 to 18, I would say. All different, like the IQ 60 till IQ 160. So you have the users and the hackers, I would say. And it's very interesting, certainly with Wi-Fi. So you come across things like, okay, Wi-Fi is perfect. The Apple standardized on Apple, so perfect challenge. What typically happened was, as long as they had classes, everything was peaceful, nice, quiet. We had a channel plan, we had installed everything. And then the buzzer came, and the students started to walk. Now they have an access point in every classroom, so they immediately passes all the access points with their tablets, phones. So average, I think, 2 to 4 devices. Then network starts to behave crazy. Literally, you see all kinds of things happen. So we debugged it, analyzed it, went into the packets, and then we noticed that fast transition, something simple like that, was turned off. What does it do? It does authenticate once and take the authentication with it when you roam. So, and that was intentionally also our meaning, right? So when we start debugging it, you see all students constantly authenticate roaming, authenticate roaming, authenticate roaming, and then with about 2,500 students at one time. So, well, you learn a lot just being in the field, dial troubleshooting, and so that's how you gain your knowledge. Another thing, what we typically do is large venues. I think all vendors are busy with dealing with large venues. So we have the NFL, for example, and one thing certainly is we came in with the NFL via the analytics, not via the Wi-Fi. We first introduced the analytics software, and we noticed how the network was behaving, and therefore the next step was, oh, do you also have products to make the Wi-Fi? And that's how we were introduced. Typically, it's like 3 dimensions of the analytics software. A packet will, let's say in the back end we have all kind of service applications like DNS, DHCP, LDAP, Radius. You provide the services towards the client. On the front end, we typically have the RF spectrum, and we have to make sure we have a complete Wi-Fi network. In the middle is actually what we think is most important. All our access points are flow-based. All access points in nature are packet-based. Packet flows through the access point. But we listen to the first packet and try to determine what kind of flow it is. So we know if it's Facebook or Twitter or what kind of app is running through the network. Based on that, we can decide what are the network response times and the application response time. And network response time typically is when a packet comes out the interface of a device through the network. The application response time is actually when the response comes on the request. So what is the time for the whole flow? So that's how we can say, is it becoming to the, is the failure happening in the network, or is the failure happening at application level? That's why we say, well, it's networks become more and more cognitive, start to become smarter based on apps and flows. We know how the network behaves and what happens. So it's learning, monitoring, and going better. So I have to go very fast now. It's more or less a conclusion, and we think analytics drives the business needs. knowing what happens in the network, knowing what trends go through the network, you know how to optimize the network far better. So I end it here, and hopefully I can contribute more to the community with knowledge, help, whatever.
And a little history lesson too.
A bit, yeah.
Thanks. Scott.